Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss books in horror. And today I'm finally here with the list of some of the new releases for the month of October.
It's coffee time!
So October is packed with thrillers and horror books, and something that I have noticed when I was curating the list is that there are so many short horror story compilations, which is actually super nice to see that a lot more publishers want to give us all the spooky content for October. And also, if you're a busy person, reading short horror stories might be your outlet for reading some spooky things during the season. So I have made a list of around, I think 35 titles are coming out in October. There's probably more out there, but I had to cut at some point. So here are some of them, and a lot of short horror story compilations like I've mentioned. So I hope there is something here for everybody, and let's go straight to the list. Haunted Places and Other Stories by Mark Allan Gunnels, and I have read something else by the author before. It was called When It Rains. It was a novella that really gave me that kind of Stephen King vibe. So if you're looking for a novella, if you like things like The Mist by Stephen King, I think you will enjoy that one. But now he's coming up with a short horror story compilation, so this is one that I'm really interested in since I did love his novella. I love that the author here explores all the ways in which people and places can be hunted, and it also uses it to challenge the assumptions on queerness. So I'm really excited for these short stories. That's Bunnies from Hell by G.E. Erickson, and this is a horror adult novella. Krista is convinced that her sister Sadie has been possessed by a demon. That is the only thing she can think of that might explain her cold and weird behavior lately. I mean, it's a natural reaction. If you see someone acting weird, you're like, possessed. So that is why Krista decided to buy a book online to try to banish the demon that allegedly is possessing her sister. And we can of course assume that the ritual that Krista is going to perform from this book is not gonna work out the way she wanted. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and this is gothic fantasy, and I have read other books by the author before, and it has a very unique style, but somehow I really enjoy it, so this is another one that I am excited about. It's about a sinister house and a really small town full of secrets. Now, when you read a book by this author, you need to be a little bit ready for the weird, the unconventional, and the stories are always, well, better said, never exactly what you would imagine. So I'm really excited that this one is about a haunted house that appears and disappears, and people in a small town that is kind of left to rot a little bit, but there are secrets and things buried in the soils in this town. Because I think that with the way the author writes, this is going to be such a unique and different take on the haunted house kind of trope. So I'm really excited for this. And then we're getting a new horror fantasy series, and the first book is coming out in October, and it's called The Dead Take the A-Train by Cassandra Caw and Richard Kadri, and it's going to be #1 in the Carrion City series. It's gonna have magic and monsters, and people have been saying it's similar to the vibe of Joe Hill and Neil Gaiman. So Julie has decided to join the magic scene in New York, and she's trying to kind of make her life this way. Since she is kind of starting at the bottom, she has to take the worst gruesome jobs that nobody else wants to do in order to get her way to the top. So it's going to be interesting to see someone that has magic but needs to start at the very bottom doing like the worst jobs ever in order to kind of get to the good sweet jobs. Downpour by Christopher Hawkins is a new adult horror sci-fi. A sudden storm starts on top of an isolated farm, and it looks like something that is not supposed to be natural. It is a rain that eats away everything that it touches, and it also turns people into monsters. So our main characters are going to be stuck inside of this farmhouse, and they're going to have to see what they can do in order to survive these almost like apocalyptic scenario. My Darling Girl by Jennifer McMahon, and is an adult horror thriller. I have read The Winter People by her, and I strongly recommend that one always for winter season. This is a psychological thriller about a woman that has taken into her house her mother, who is currently struggling with an addiction, a drinking addiction. And that's when she starts to kind of realize that maybe actually her family is being hunted by some sort of demon. This one is also based around Christmas season, so if you want to pick it up for Christmas as a Christmas horror read, this might also be a great choice. A Hunting on the Hill by Elizabeth Hand, and this is adult horror gothic. And this is an official novel that takes us back to the Shirley Jackson original story of Hunting on Hill House. We follow Holly, and she has just finally received a grant to be able to execute the play that she's always wanted, and that is also when she finds the Hill House, and she decides that this is the perfect manner, the perfect place and scenario that she can use for her play. So they decide to rent the house for a month and see, you know, go there and start the recording and all of that. And of course, once they get into the house, they're going to realize that there might be something else in there. Next, we have a horror anthology that I'm really excited about because it is edited by no other than Jordan Peele. And I absolutely love his movies and his vision for horror. The anthology is called Out There Screaming, an anthology of new black horror. And yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to bring us a complete different take on horror. And if you've ever seen anything by Jordan Peele at all, you know that he has a very specific taste that tends to be a little bit unique and out of the ordinary. So I can imagine that the stories that he has picked have been curated, taken into consideration, you know, those standards that he has. So I'm really excited to see which are the stories that he chose for this. Then we have Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson, and this is adult queer horror. What I love about this one is that it is based on a Celtic myth. It is based in Ireland, and we have an element of the supernatural, so this promises to be very atmospheric. Our main character is driving in the middle of the night on a countryside road when she discovers a dead body. So she does the sensible thing. She takes the body home, and that is when things start to go really wrong. I think this is kind of like a psychological tale blended in with the supernatural. And then the book jumps 20 years into the future, where we explored what happened to that character and we get introduced to new characters. If you want to read the whole synopsis, it's all on Goodreads. I don't want to talk too much about the whole synopsis because sometimes synopses are so long and I feel like they are revealing a lot of things that you might just want to experience by yourself and discover it as you're reading the book. So I do try to keep these kind of like brief synopsises that I give you here quite short, because sometimes I read the whole thing in Goodreads and I'm like, isn't that a little bit like too revealing of everything that's gonna go on from beginning to end? So if you want more information, you can always check Goodreads, but for here, I like to keep it quite sweet and short. Then we have Scareways by Trevor Henderson, and this is middle grade horror, and I am obsessed with this cover. I love it so much. We are in a small town in which people have been disappearing. There have been sightings of possible creatures, but as it tends to happen, the adults are completely oblivious to this problem and they just choose to ignore the signs. And our main characters are a group of kids that are gonna have to face those horrors during several nights. So I think this one is going to be a perfect read for Halloween season. Next we have Brainworms by Alison Rumfitt, and this is an adult horror queer thriller. This is supposed to be a story about obsession, violence, and with body horror. So needless to say, this one is going to be quite intense. It's going to be also perhaps not for everybody because this one does deal with transphobia. So please check the trigger warnings. I think this author is something that I would compare to Samantha Kolesnik. Both are quite intense in their violence, in the body gore, and kind of on the same level in that regard. So not for the faint of heart. The author released another, I think it was a novella not that long ago called Tell Me I'm Worthless, and that one was also quite intense. So like I said, check the trigger warnings, but if you're looking for some a quite intense body horror filled book for Halloween season, this might be one you want to check. Silent Key by Laura Hightower is another adult horror thriller. After the loss of her husband in mysterious circumstances, a former detective starts to learn things about the past from her husband that she was unaware of. She's struggling dealing with the loss of her husband, but also with the realization that the man that thought she knew, she actually did not know at all. And now it's up to her to try to solve the mysteries that are related to her husband's past. Next we have Let the Wood Keep Our Bodies by E.M. Roy, and this is adult queer horror novella. Our main character, Leo, thinks that she knows her town really well, she knows every corner, and things take a really dark turn when someone disappears and she's pinned as a suspect for this disappearance. She sees the town completely change the way that they act towards her, and also she is gonna end up discovering some very dark secrets related to her family. Frostbite by Angela Sylvain, and this is adult horror sci-fi, and from the moment I saw this cover, I was sold. I think this cover is just gorgeous. We are right before Christmas and we have some sort of alien ship, some sort of alien creatures that are infecting humans and making them forget like years and years of their lives. And we follow a 19-year-old and her friends are trying to put a stop to this before it's too late. This one sounds like a lot of fun and I am so sick of repeating myself, but honestly I don't read enough sci-fi, so this might be one that I have to pick up. Then we have Generation Annihilation by Tracy Hewitt Meyer, and this is a horror mystery. I did read this one, so you can check out my Goodreads review on it. It is about a kid that has to run away from home after things get kind of out of control, and he is trying to hide in a town isolated from society, trying to lay low until everything kind of passes, and he comes across an old asylum and he starts to get way too close to the building and ends up kind of trapped in there. I think in general, if you are a fan of books that talk about asylums, experiments and stuff like that, you might enjoy it, so you might want to check it out. Becoming the Boogeyman by Richard Chisma, and this is a horror crime thriller. This is the very expected sequel to Chasing the Boogeyman that I absolutely love because it truly combined a true crime story with fiction in a way that was really engaging, and it also kind of ties back to the author's background and where he comes from, and I really enjoyed Chasing the Boogeyman, so I'm really excited to read the sequel. If you've never read Chasing the Boogeyman, it's about a guy that lives in a town where, you know, this killer is supposed to be, and he kind of wants to have an investigation of himself about it and stuff. If you like true crime, it's a book that you must have read because, you know, it's great if you love true crime. Foxfire by Rowan Hill is a new horror novella. We are in a remote Finnish resort with some, you know, investors and business people, and they're all there to kind of watch the northern lights and everything is going according to plan. But obviously we have a group of people that are isolated and they have a lot of secrets. And of course we have people from all over the world, from different backgrounds. They could all be hiding something, and obviously, wait for it, they're gonna be picked out one by one. This is a trope that I am very passionate about. I love strangers being trapped somewhere, isolated, and then they all start to die. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. I love that kind of mystery, so I think I also need to get this one. I Died Too, But They Haven't Buried Me Yet by Ross Jeffrey. What an amazing title, and I'm really excited about this one. We follow Henry. So his daughter went missing, and every year in the anniversary of the disappearance, he buries something related to his daughter on the ground as some sort of like ritual to help him cope. His daughter was 14 when she disappears, and it was really hard on Henry. And now somebody suggests to him, you know, that maybe he can try to make contact with his daughter and see, you know, if she actually died or not. Like, why not try to reach to the realm of the dead and see if you can contact her? I think this is an amazing concept. I'm really excited for it. Next we have Root, Rot, and Other Grim Tales by Sarah Reed, and this is another short horror story compilation. These are new 18 tales by the Bram Stoker Award winner author, so if you have enjoyed other things by her, now you know that she has a short horror story compilation coming up. You're gonna get stories from haunted houses to shipwrecks to werewolves, like everything is included here. Next we have Phantom by Helen Power, and this is a horror fantasy thriller. Our main character is Rose, and she is very much broke. Her ex-boyfriend is making her life a misery, and nobody's taking her art seriously, so she's kind of unable to make a living. And somebody makes her a proposition to give her a lot of money for her left hand. So what would you do if somebody would offer you like $1 million for your left hand? Would you do it? And as for Roz, she obviously did it, and that is why the book is called Phantom, is because she's suffering from this phantom limb syndrome, and she's really struggling with that, and she needs to get kind of drugs to be able to move forward after losing her hand. So this one sounds quite interesting, at the same time disturbing, and you guys know I love a disturbing story. Next we have They Stalk the Night by Brian Moreland. During a winter storm, there is a ravenous creature that is preying on the people that live in an isolated small town. So we follow the police chief and other people in town that are trying to get to this beast before it finishes them all, and they're also dealing with the winter storm, so I think this is gonna be quite atmospheric as well and perfect for the winter season. It has been compared to The Ritual and to 30 Days of Night. I love the concept of 30 Days of Night. I've loved the movie, loved the comics. So if you're looking for something similar, this might be a good choice. I liked Most Helpful by Hailey Piper, and this is adult queer horror. A summer storm hits a small town, and our main character, Olivia, is gonna have to do everything in her power to save her and her best friend. They say it's Bunny meets Stranger Things in a tale in which we have female characters supporting each other, trying to save each other. Our main character Olivia had to leave home 3 years ago and now lives in the small town with her best friend, and when this storm comes and the monsters comes, she knows that she's willing to do absolutely anything to save her friend. Next we have 12 Bones by Rosie Talbot, and this is YA horror paranormal. It is a direct sequel to 16 Souls, and I'm really excited for this one. The first book follows our main character that is able to see ghosts. He is a seer of spirits in York, which is supposed to be one of the most haunted places. And all his friends are also ghosts, so... But there's also a little bit of a romantic aspect to the book as well, and it is a great paranormal tale. Next we have a collection of 3 stories that kind of go together. It's called The Conservators Collection, Derelict, and it is written by John Durging, by Jay Bauer, and John Lynch. We have this character that is kind of like the conservator, and he's the one that is gonna go through these leather-bound books that are made out of human flesh. We love that kind of leather, and they are covered in blood, and those are the 3 tomes that we're gonna be reading in this book. I really love this concept. I'm in for it, and it sounds like a good time. Distant Sons by Tim Johnston, and this is a mystery thriller. This is going to be perfect for people that love detective stories and stories in which a chain of events start revealing things from the past and puts together stories from different characters. So this is going to be perfect for people that love investigations, detectives, and old cases or cold cases that are kind of come back, and we're gonna find something about them that is gonna help us solve other things, like, you know, that kind of detective vibe. This is gonna be a great mystery for you if you love those type of thrillers. Moving on to another horror anthology, we have Death Realm Spirits, a horror anthology. It includes tales from people like Brian Keene and Eric LaRocca, and a lot of interesting voices in horror. This collection in particular specializes on the supernatural and ghosts and stuff like that, so that if it's something that is kind of your vibe, then you need to get it. And I'm really excited to see especially what Eric LaRocca did with his story here, since I have not read any book by him that was truly like a ghost supernatural story, he tends to be a lot more greedy and a lot more body horror-y and disturbing, so I'm curious to see what he did with his story. The next book is what some people call a new adult adaptation of Shakespeare's Macbeth, so that sounds quite interesting. It's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it is by Lila Lawson and Lauren Emily Whalen. So obviously this is going to be perfect for people that love books about plays and theater and love Shakespeare in general. So if you are someone that loves to check everything Shakespearean, this might be for you. And yes, I am personally addressing to you Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. I know she loves anything Shakespeare, so this is gonna be perfect for her. Next we have Post Haste Manor by Carson Winter and Jolie Tumajan. And I love what they say in the synopsis, which is never trust a house with a name. Facts. I mean, that is facts. And everybody also has their own stories always about these houses that have names, just like this one in the title. And if I understand this correctly, this is almost told as if this house was real, and we are gonna hear the stories that people have to tell about it, people that either lived there or, you know, had contact with the house, were in the town and stuff like that. So this is extremely interesting for me. I'm always down for this type of books. King's Hill by Joss Hanson is our next adult horror book. I really like the premise of this story, even though it's something that I have seen before, but we follow Sadie and she takes a writing job that takes her to prison to talk to some of the people that are in prison. One of them being the local town's boogeyman, a basically recognized a serial killer. And when she sits to talk to him, at some point she decides that she needs to tell his story from his point of view. And I live for that. I live, and I really, really want to read this book. You guys know I love anything related to true crime. I don't care if it's nonfiction or fiction. I just love those type of stories about serial killers, and especially, you know, interviews, you know, this back and forth with someone investigating and someone that is a convicted killer. It just gives me life. So this one I'm really excited for. Next we have another horror anthology that is going to be perfect for Christmas, but you can already catch up and read it in October. It is called Christmas and Other Horrors. I agree. An anthology of solstice horror edited by Ellen Datlow, who has been editing horror anthologies for the longest time. Stephen Graham Jones, Alma Katsu are some of the names that are included in these horror compilation. And listen, I am someone that does indulge a little bit on Christmas traditions, not many, but I will take any excuse for drinking nice things, holidays, watching themed movies, and horror Christmas stuff, books and movies are also, you know, perfect for the season. So this is something that I would save probably for December, but if you guys already want to get into the spirit, then you can get to it in October. The next one is like horror graphic novel. I don't always mention many of these, but I thought this one would be perfect for spooky season, and since it's coming out in October anyways. It's called Whisper of the Woods by Enun Anna Lurov. And it kind of answers the question of what happens to a foreigner that comes into a town and ignores the people's warnings, the people that live in the town warning them not to go into the woods, but they do. So tough luck, you know, I would say. You've been warned. However, the main character that we have here, like, I understand the motives because our main character is looking for his missing friend. So everything takes him to this town and to the woods, and he has no other choice but to go in there. Moving on to our next release, and it's called The Shadow of Banshee Hill by Fionn Mac Meldrum. We are in the 1800s and we have an Irish rebel that is determined to marry the love of his life, but obviously the family of the girl opposes, and he decides to ask for help. However, what answers his prayers is not exactly something holy. It's something a little bit darker. If you're looking for an atmospheric kind of winter period piece horror, this might be one that you want to check out. Next we have a debut queer horror novella, and it is called Green Fuse Burning by Tiffany Morris. We follow Rita. She is someone that is very lost after losing her father, even though she really had an estranged relationship with him, but now she's kind of regretting not talking to him enough, not asking enough questions, not really getting to know him, and also her culture and where she comes from and all of that. She ends up moving to her father's cabin and kind of renovating it a little bit. She wants to try to get in touch to who her father was and talk to the local people in there. And then the moment that she's living in there, she's gonna realize that there's something really weird in that place. So she's gonna have to learn about the history of the place and all of that, which, you know, it's again kind of tropey, but I do live for a good story in which a character has to move somewhere that belongs to their family and there is some sort of history about the place they don't know about and then hits them in the face. Yeah, I do like that as well. Then we have The Reformatory by Tananarive Due, and this is adult historical horror. We are in the 1950s and we follow a 12-year-old boy that is basically punished to go to a school for 6 months to pay for whatever he's done, and that is when he is being sent to the Reformatory. But also our main character, Robbie, he has kind of like a talent to feel, to see ghosts. And the moment that he enters this reformatory, he's gonna have some visions, he's gonna start seeing some things, hearing some things that he might not be ready for. And last but definitely not least is actually one of the ones that I am the most excited about because it's Nestlings by Nat Cassidy, which is adult horror, and this is the author that wrote Mary. And I really enjoyed that book. It was so dark and so different and so disturbing at different levels throughout the book. It had also a very interesting combination of different subgenres of horror, and I'm really excited to see what he did with this one. He did post a TikTok in which he recommended books that inspired him to create this one, because this is a story similar to Rosemary's Baby. So all of those stories where you have creepy kids, creepy parents, and something is wrong with the children and the family, that is the kind of vibe that you can expect from this one. It is about a couple that, you know, they are having a kid, and when the woman delivers the baby, the delivery didn't go as expected, and she's very frustrated and bitter, and it kind of messes up the relationship that she has with her husband after the baby's born. The couple also has recently moved to a new apartment that they want, and she starts to, you know, complain about certain visions, certain things that she's hearing, and of course the husband is gonna assume that she's just losing her mind. It's one of those tropes that I think, if done right, I really enjoy. Personally, I am tired of women just being portrayed as crazy and paranoid in books. Thank you very much. But I have so much faith in Nat Cassidy that he's gonna give me something different, special, unique that I'm gonna just love and savor. So I'm really ready for this one, if you haven't been able to tell by my excitement. Mary was a great exercise on horror, so I'm really excited to see what he did with this one. And he's also a horror buff, so you know that he is gonna deliver something horrifying. Alright guys, so these were all the book releases that I had noted down for the month of October. Hopefully this video was not extremely long. I tried to be quick with the synopsises just to give you like a glance, an idea of what the books are about. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope there was something here for everybody. So sorry if I added books to your carts and TBR piles. I'm just here providing information. But, you know, we do it to each other because then I watch other people's videos and I go to sprints, and I also end up adding a lot of books to my cart. Anyway, you guys, let me know down below if there's any other books that are coming out in October that I did not mention but that you are really excited about. Thank you as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!